Hi, my name is Matt over at Infinite Diesel Performance in UTV. Today we're going to be replacing the unit bearings on this 2013 F-350. All right, so first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you jack the front end of the vehicle up and make sure it's secure and have the wheels off the ground itself. Obviously, the next step, you want to take the wheels off, and then from there you can go ahead and get to everything else you need to. The first step is you want to get the caliper and caliper bracket off. So what we're going to do is make some room. You can get a pry bar on the back side of the caliper and inside of the knuckle, and you can use it for leverage to pull it over. Every once in a while you might have to take this brake line and kind of persuade it a little bit out of the way to make room for the socket. Place this over and out of the way. Make sure it's secure and not going to fall. Take your rotor off. Next step, take the knuckle, get it back at a 90-degree angle. Now you want to take the hub off. Give it a little love tap. As you're pulling this hub off, if the locking hub part comes off, don't be afraid. If you can see this here, this locking hub part here, this as you turn it, it pushes in and down on a plunger, which locks your hub. If this comes off and this part stays inside the actual hub itself, it's okay. There's little plastic tabs in here. You can get in there and kind of slowly pry it out to walk it out. And all you have to do is press this back down on the ground and push the hub locking part back down on top of the locking hub, and we'll be fine. Next step is there is a C-clip on the inside. You want to use your large pair of C-clip pliers. Pry out your C-clip. Set that off to the side. Next step, you can go ahead and get the ABS sensor off. You can take your dust shield. You're gonna have to make some room, so all you have to do is kind of pry it out a little bit. There you go. You can always put that back to normal for the customer. You want to make sure it's not elevated like it is now, or else it'll rub on the inside of the rotor. All right, so the next thing you want to do is take the ABS sensor out. Oh, I almost forgot. You gotta make sure you have your safety glasses on. You never know when something's gonna bite you in the face. So you can get the ABS sensor out. You can get a flat tip screwdriver, slowly pry it out. Now this hub here, as you can see here, is a lot of metal shavings. This one was lots of grinding action going on the inside of the hub. So before the ABS sensor goes back in, make sure you move all the excess debris and metal shavings. There's a 8mm for the ABS sensor on the back side of the knuckle. Pull that off, set off to the side. Now the tricky part, now you want to get the knuckle turned all the way over to one side. So I use a 13/16 chrome 1/2 inch and a wobbly. There's 4 on the back side. Sometimes you might have to turn the axle shaft a little bit to make room between the U-joint and that nut. Now, if you're going to replace the whole axle shaft itself, or if you have the vacuum hub seal in the back here and you're going to replace those, you can take an air hammer and just beat the hub seal out and the whole hub will come out with it. But if you're not doing that, we're replacing these, so we're going to use the persuader here. You can hear that right there. You hear the grinding. That's a bad unit bearing. So what we're going to use is our Timken hub bearing. Some of these unit bearings come loaded with the ABS sensor, so we'll end up taking it off the control arm. Now you have these 4 studs. You want to, before you install them, you want to put some Loctite on there. So I'm going to go grab some Loctite. All right, got the red Loctite. You can use blue. Blue is fine. Red is probably even better. So these don't ever need to come off. So we'll get those started as far down as you can by hand. Now we want to make sure that we get these fully seated and tight. So we'll take our unit bearing nuts we had, we'll put them on there, we'll double stack the nuts, and then we'll tighten them up. All right, so we got our wrenches. What we're going to do is put a 13/16 on the bottom. I'll go ahead and tighten them up. All right, that's good to go. They don't need to be super tight. All right, so organize the area. All right, so this is ready to install, but we're not done there yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean up this area in here, all the rust and everything that's on the inside with the wire wheel. And we're going to put some anti-seize right here where the hub goes, where the unit bearing goes into the knuckle here, and on the back side where the backing plate meets the knuckle for future repairs. Okay, so we have the area all surface prepped on the outside. There's still a little bit of rust on the inside, so what you want to do is take some emery cloth, Scotch-Brite, kind of get it in there and just clean it a little bit more. This aids in reinstallation of the unit bearing itself. All right, good. Next thing we want to do is we'll take some bearing grease on a fancy brush, and we'll paint some on the actual hub bearing O-ring itself. Take a little bit more. We're going to go on the inside. So we're going to anti-seize over and through here. All right, the anti-seize. You don't have to globber it on. too much. You just need to make it a little bit silver. All right, now right where the studs go in the knuckle there, you'll see some little bit of rust in there too. But what you can do is throw some anti-seize around the hole on the inside, and it'll eventually get pushed in. Anti-seize is your friend for any sort of suspension part, especially like ball joints, any type of steering component, things that you don't want to seize up. So they call it anti-seize. Go ahead and stud, put some anti-seize around the back side of the stud itself. All right, backing plates next. You're going to have your ABS ring here, your ABS sensor itself, excuse me. The opening goes towards. Set that off to the side. It's not going to seat in all the way. You don't need to sit there with the hammer and try and drive it on. You just take your 4 nuts on the back side of the hub bearing, get them started. And what you're going to do is you're going to slowly walk the hub into the knuckle. What I mean by walk is tighten one corner at a time until it's fully seated against the knuckle. Sometimes you just do it with 2 nuts. That's what we did. 2 nuts, we're good to go. So I have to get the upper nuts. Yep. Move the knuckle back out. All right, so the hub's tightened to the knuckle itself. Now what we're going to do is we're going to position the dust cover back where it needs to be. Just position it back into place. Good to go. There's 2 more 8 mils for the ABS sensor. We got to take off. It's over by the spring first. Okay, so we're getting the ABS sensor off, the old one. This one's got a Pro Comp lift, so there's some zip ties on the back that you need to take off that hold the ABS sensor to the control arm. All right, so this is the old ABS sensor. That's out of the way. Let's go ahead and route it behind the shock. When you're plugging in any connector, you want to make sure it's fully seated. A lot of these, I don't know if you can see it here, there's a red locking tab. You want to make sure you fully seat it. Push down, pull out, make sure it's seated, and lock the tab into place. Okay, so there's one zip tie we got to put on back here. Okay, the next thing we want to do is put our C-clip back on the axle. This is a retention from the axle stub shaft onto the hub itself. So it's going to sit on there. You need to give it a little knock. You hear that click? That's the full engagement. It's that audible click that you want to hear. Next thing you want to do is you want to lube up the locking hub splines. Throw some grease in there. This just helps. Go ahead and lube up the inside where the hub's going to sit into the actual unit bearing itself. A little or a lot, that's up to you, that's your judgment. Just want to make sure you have some in there. Just do a quick inspection of the locking hub itself. Make sure nothing's out of whack. Make sure the O-ring is good to go. It's not flat in any one particular area. Go ahead and lube up the O-ring. There's a flat paper gasket on the hub itself. You can go ahead and throw some grease on that too. What we're doing is trying to line up the hub with the splines. Here we go. All right, so that's good. We're in. Put our last 3 Torx in. Now you don't need to ram these down too tight. Check for locking hub actuation. So we're good. Axle shaft's turning, drive shaft's turning, and disengagement. So that's good. That's the new hub installed, and you just want to assemble everything else in reverse order. And that's how you install a unit bearing on a 2013 F-250.